If you're planning on setting up a company in Dubai, or you already set up a company in Dubai and your next step is to set up a bank account, well, it's very important that you ensure that your bank account actually gets open. Because without banking, your company is basically not a real company. You can't send and you cannot receive money, so what is the purpose? It is useless. Now, setting up a bank account in Dubai is very straightforward. If you're using apps like Weo, it can be extremely simple. However, simple doesn't mean or make it easy to actually get accepted. Here at GenZone, we've helped hundreds of people relocate from their home countries to Dubai, set up businesses here, set up their personal and their corporate bank accounts, and do a lot more. And in those hundreds, we have gone through some rejections. Unfortunately, it's a part of business. You will not always get accepted. And because we've gone through these rejections, we know exactly how to get past them and how to make somebody's application as strong as possible so that you get accepted the first time and can try to avoid those headaches. So let me go over a few of the reasons why your application might get rejected or why it did get rejected, because sometimes you'll get rejected with no answer. So let me break down some of the reasons why. The first reason is you do not meet the minimum banking requirement, meaning you don't meet the minimum capital required for this bank. Depending on the bank you're applying with, they might require a minimum amount of capital. If it's 500,000 or 200,000 or 1,000 dirhams, doesn't matter. You just need to know this when you are applying, and of course do it correctly and answer accordingly. So that's the first thing. But sometimes that minimum balance might be an internal piece of information, so without that and without working with an expert team who knows that number, well, you are just guessing. The next thing is it depends on the free zone you registered your business in. Some free zones are cheap free zones, and this does not signal positively to the banks. So in that case, they might not want to open your bank account because of that reason. So it depends on the free zone you are registering your business in. Hey, it might be cheaper, but if you can't get a bank account, well, then you wasted all of that money and you have to set up in another free zone maybe because of that. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to price shop and get the cheapest free zone available. Because the truth is, banks have a ton of applications and a lot of applicants. Because of that, they do not want to just give away bank accounts to just anybody. The next thing is you might have a weak shareholder profile. So if you're applying to this bank alone, well, you have to make sure that your application is as strong as possible. Maybe it's having a resume, maybe it's having statements, having a business plan, whatever it may be. This is very important. And of course, when you're working with an expert team, an expert banking team, they can actually help you do all this. They'll do it all for you, and then they'll submit it accordingly. Because in this case, your shareholders are very important. This is who the bank is allowing to have access to their company. So they want to make sure that you are actually a credible person and not just a nobody who's just trying to set up a bank and might just start doing some weird stuff that they do not want to be a part of. Now, the next thing is that you are from a high-risk country. If your country is sanctioned, there will be probably some issues with your banking process and you might not get accepted. And if you do, it might be a lot more difficult and you might need a lot more help and a lot more support in order to actually get your bank account open. Now, this is just the truth. It's a lot easier to open a company bank account for someone from Canada compared to someone from a sanctioned country, not to mention them. The next thing is if your business doesn't have a physical location, then this will make it a little bit more risky for a bank to actually open your bank account. So when you're working with an expert team, we're going to make sure that you actually have everything required in order to make your application as smooth as possible. Some banks accept a lease agreement, some don't, some want an ijari, some are okay with a tenancy agreement. It really depends on the bank you're applying to, so you need to keep this in mind. And again, you definitely have to understand that if you're new to the UAE, you don't have these statements, for these banks, then it's going to be really hard for them to open a bank account for you. So what I highly suggest is you work with a professional team of people who can actually do this. They have the right connections. I don't like to say that you need to work with X group of people, but sometimes you just need to. It's not a who you know thing always. However, it definitely does help. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you know the bankers personally, they will definitely help you out in regards to banking. So it's very important to work with the right group of people and ensure that your bank actually gets set up properly the first time, because there's nothing worse than being rejected, getting rejected and not being able to receive payments, not able to send out money. So if you're planning on setting up a business in Dubai, then please set it up with us. We'll make sure that it's done properly the first time, structured properly the first time with the correct activities, so that you have no issues with banking. And if you do have issues with banking, then we'll take care of it until your bank account is open. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, then book a call with us down below, and we're more than happy to assist people who already have companies set up in the UAE and want assistance with banking. So book a call with us down below and be our next client.